in time. Yeah, I'm surrendering. Hold tight, chemicals collide. Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me move. Can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me.
K-pop fans, welcome back to K-pop Girls. Welcome if you're new. I'm Merc. I'm Bree. Oh, my bra. I got no limit. We're done.
Alrighty, Mer. Floor is yours.
All right. Hey, K-pop fans, welcome back to kcord Girls. Welcome if you're new here. I am Mer,
I am Bree.
and welcome to our third. Wow, I'll put up 2 fingers. That's 3.
Well, you were showing 2 and then adding another one.
There you go.
There we go. Yes.
Third episode of our podcast. And then please remember that these are our opinions on the topics that we discuss, and we implore you to do your own research and come up to your own conclusions on these matters. Just a disclaimer.
Yes. Disclaimer.
So
those are always
gotta love
important. And we got a couple
Right?
interesting topics today too. So should be a fun one.
Yeah. We're gonna start with our first topic, which seems to kind of be relevant, especially to our channel, because we've gotten some suggestions and requests on covering a certain show, and I think we're gonna talk about why we are not covering that show,
Mhm.
and kind of go into details of why and our opinions on the situation and all of that.
Yeah, we got into it a little bit on Twitch. What was
We
it?
did.
Friday night? Last Friday? But we said
so.
even in the Twitch stream that this is something we were going to be covering in the podcast this month. So we didn't get into it too much. So
Right. Yeah, our official discussion now.
Yes.
But on June 1st, JTBC and B-Lift Labs announced that they were going to begin filming a new survival show, Are You Next? With the intention of building the next global girl group. And like I said, we got a lot of requests to cover that show. And we were interested until on June 16th, the names and ages of the girls that were going to be competing on the show were announced. And then that's where our interest kind of died off. We became very hesitant to watch the show after we found out the youngest contestant is only 12 years old. And so you can imagine our disappointment, because that is awfully young. That's awfully young. And honestly, we were also shocked because it wasn't too long ago that there was a new act passed in Korea, the Lee Sung-gi Crisis Prevention Act, where it protects minors. And so even though the show isn't doing anything illegal that I know of, I would have to look at the hours that the girls are being put under to know for sure,
Yeah. I imagine they probably have to keep her out of some portions of the show in order to avoid, breaking those new laws and those new time constraints that are put on young trainees and idols.
Right, because now under the new act, entertainers under the age of 12 are only allowed 24 hours, a 24-hour work week, and up to only 6 hours a day, which isn't a lot of time. I am curious, though, if there isn't loopholes, and again, I would have to read through the entire act to find out, but the 12-year-old is Japanese.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if there isn't like loopholes. And a lot of, not all, there are some of the Korean girls, there's a few 15-year-olds, but most of the girls that are within that underage range that would be protected by the act, most of them are foreigners.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Not all, like I said, not all. There are a couple of that are also Korean, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure. So
and I believe too there was like I think like six of the contestants are 15. So
there was there were several. They, if I remember correctly, the ages range from 21 to 12. 12 being the youngest, and that was the biggest drop. I think it went 12, and then the next youngest is 15, and then up from there. So, yep.
Yeah. Which I don't think we've ever bitten our tongue about our opinions when it comes to underage idols and trainees. I mean, trainees is one thing. I think it's more or less about debut for the most part. We're not a fan of minors debuting. If my preference would be 18 and up for idols. Now we have groups that we follow where the youngest member was like 16 or 15 when they debuted. And we'll still support those groups. We just don't necessarily agree with that young, but below 15, I mean, that's too much for me. I can't get behind that. I know that the goal is, to create this group for them to debut later down the line. I don't think they're going to be debuting right after the show airs. But even then, I mean, how long are they going to wait? Because even then, she's still going to be, what, 13, 14, 15?
Right.
Like,
right. I would think that they would only wait a maximum of a year, which would only make her 13 years old. And that's still, in my opinion, extremely
way too young.
Way too young to be debuting and living an idol life. And my other concern is if they do abide by the guidelines of this new act, how much screen time is she going to get? Which means we know, which means she's going to be a neglected idol. And then so when she goes to like fan signings and stuff, she's going to feel isolated, because we've seen that happen with other groups, and not necessarily because of age things, but we've seen other groups where an idol is not a popular idol and there is like this bias against them, and the fans completely ignore them. And any attention that they do get is negative attention. And then as the other group or other members are getting showered with gifts, this idol is being ignored and not given any gifts whatsoever. And that would be my concern with an idol that is getting restricted screen time. Yeah. So I don't know. And that is actually bottom of the barrel concern as far as,
everything else that goes along with an idol being underage. I mean,
right.
We've already heard so many horror stories from adult idols who debuted as minors, who have given their experiences and their stories and been like, I wish I hadn't debuted so young. Like, there was too much I didn't know, too much I didn't understand, too much that happened that I couldn't control, So I don't understand why we haven't learned this lesson by now of debuting minors. And I feel like at this point, it's just getting pushed younger and younger. We are seeing trainees and idols that are getting younger and younger each year. I mean, this is not the only minor that's around this age range. I mean, this is a 12-year-old on Are You Next? But then you have Baby Monster, where their youngest member is like 13. And then we have, what is it, Horizon? I don't even remember the ages exactly, but I know they have at least, I think, 2 that are below the age of 15. I mean, it's just, I don't understand why we're getting younger and younger, especially with these new laws that have been put in place to try and protect these minors. It's almost like some of these companies are like, oh, you're going to put restrictions, so we're going to push the envelope and just start bringing on younger and younger idols and trainees.
Right.
I don't know.
Exactly. And one of my, like, along with the list of concerns I have, the other concern I have is these kids are only like halfway through their school career.
Yeah.
Being this young, they're only halfway through their school career. So not only, we all know that the idol life and that any celebrity life comes with a lot of pressure, a lot of work. It takes a lot. So taking that already heavy pressurized life and dumping it onto a school age child that also has to keep up their school career, keep up the grades, and make classes and all of that is just adding unnecessary pressure to a young child that just is not ready for it right now.
Yeah.
So that's my other concern is that, like, oh, it isn't getting through the last 1, 2, or 3 years of school. They still have half of their school career to go.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a huge struggle. That's a huge struggle.
Oh, definitely.
So.
Definitely. And I mean, teenagers, I mean, especially young, well, all teenagers really, their minds are still developing, their emotions are still developing. They're still, I mean, this is some of their like peak development years. And then we're adding all this added pressure and added stress of being a debuted idol, of trying to keep up with intense schedules and training. I don't know. It's not healthy for them. It's not healthy. But I mean, like, as far as like, I know at least with Are You Next, there are more and more fans, K-pop stans that are coming out that are like, we're not okay with this. I've seen so many articles and so many comments of people being like, we're not going to watch Are You Next, or we're not going to vote for the 12-year-old because they don't support it. They don't want it to happen.
Right.
And it's sad because you think about it, that, that child who's on the show, if they don't get any support, if they don't get any votes, it's gonna hurt them, and it's not necessarily meant to hurt them. It's just basically Stan saying, we're not okay with this because you're too young right now. But
yeah, and we kind of said it before last Friday on our live stream, but like, we might as well cover it here too. We won't be watching Are You Next for that reason. And it has nothing to do with the underage idols. Absolutely nothing to do. I hope that eventually that they do get to live their dreams, that they do get to become idols. But now is not the time.
Yeah.
And the only way we can take a stand is by going, no, we are not supporting this show because you have someone so underaged in it. Because the only way these companies are going to listen is by affecting their pocketbooks, and no views means no money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, I think we've already gotten like suggestions, recommendations to check out Baby Monster. We won't be checking them out because of their underage, their magnate in the group. And like I mentioned before, that group Horizon, we've had several people request us to check them out as well. Now, here's the thing with that group, because we had gotten so many requests to watch them, we watched them on our own. We didn't record a reaction to it. And we did that to kind of look and see what was going on, because I don't even think we looked up the ages right away. And with that group, what really worried me was that you have minors, we said, underage idols, that I believe there's at least 2 of them that are under the age of 15. But then you also have in that same group members that are, almost 20, if not 20 and above.
I thought the oldest was 21. I'd have to look up their ages. I thought the oldest was 21. It was a huge gap.
It is. It's a huge gap from the oldest member to the youngest member. Okay, here. So I'm seeing 2000, 2002, 2002.
Well,
Then we're
depending
gonna
on
get
when in
down
2000, that's
to
a 23-year-old. So
we got 2009, 2009. Yeah, for the magnates. So
2009 would be 13?
13. So two 13-year-olds in
12
this
to
group.
13-year-olds, yeah.
In this group.
Somewhere, yeah.
Now in the video we watched, I think it was a pre-debut video, the minors were dressed respectfully. The choreo, for them at least, was respectful. The oldest members were flashing a lot of skin, doing a lot of, more sexier style choreography. Here's my thing. If you're gonna go for that kind of age bracket, I feel like what they tried to do with this group is they're like, we're gonna get everyone from teenagers to adults to get into this group. We're gonna try and bring in everyone. And it actually, like, for me at least, makes me want to back away, because you have in the same group members who are acting very maturely and then very young minors. If you want a very young group, then it needs to be restricted to the kind of content that a very young group would put out. That means even for the oldest members, not flashing skin, not doing any kind of suggestive choreography. If you want a more mature group who can do that kind of stuff, don't put 13-year-olds in the group. So with like that group, we're not going to be covering them at all. Like I said, I know we watched the one music video on our own, but that was more or less for research purposes, because once we heard the ages, we were like, what's going on with this group? Like, that sounds insane. And it's just, it was very shocking to us when we watched it, but we won't be supporting it on the channel. We won't be putting it, and it's not anything against them. It's not against anything personally against the members. It's not their fault, But again, like Mer said, if you want to show that you're not in support of having such young idols debuting, the only way to show that to the companies is by affecting their pocketbooks.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just, it's a toxic industry to be exposing to children. And I've seen it too many times, not only in like K-pop groups and stuff, which I have heard it in K-pop groups, and it is a huge concern, but in like Western groups as well, in Western stars and idols, where kids are taken advantage of because they're being put in these toxic environments, and there just isn't the protection there.
Yeah.
And but even with just K-pop groups, we've heard older idols like that have spoke up and was like, yeah, as a child, I was taken advantage of. And, in any way, shape, or form that you can imagine, and I won't go into details, obviously, but, and it's a concern. It's a concern. And you have to protect children. And this is the best way that we can protect them.
Yeah.
So, and with that being said, like we heard the announcement that they're going to come out with a season 2 of Island.
Yeah, they're going to do the girl group edition, I think, next year.
They're going to do the girl group edition. And we were really excited. But in light of Are You Next?
We're worried they're going to go young again with their trainees.
Exactly. And so we're waiting to see how young the trainees are in that Island before we make the decision of whether we're going to watch it or not. We said we were going to jump on it, but now in retrospect, we're going to wait. So,
we're going to see what the contestants' ages are first.
Yeah, exactly.
And like with Are You Next, we might go back and watch it after it airs, but that really depends on whether or not the minor, the youngest, makes the group. If we find out at the end of the day that the 12-year-old does not make the group, then we might go back and rewatch it on like Patreon or Twitch or one of those two. But if we find out that she did make the group, then no, we're not going to watch it. We're not going to go back and watch it, and we're not going to support the group once they debut. Not as long as they're debuting her so young. And again, I doubt they're going to wait several years for her to get older to debut.
Right, because you're talking about at least waiting 3 years before you're in that protective, where we're like, okay, we don't like it, but okay. So, but then
And then we also got a question of, would you do a reaction to NCT from the beginning, like a deep dive? I mean, I don't even know what the ages were of NCT in the start.
Right.
But I mean, we already reacted to them. I think it's a little different in the sense right now that they're already adults for the most part.
If it like down the road, if this Are You Next group, or even like Horizon, I guess, once the members become of age, then we might go back and watch content,
Yeah.
maybe. But like until they're of age, I don't feel comfortable
Supporting.
But like as far as I know, all of the NCT members now are of age, so it's
Yeah.
a little
different. It's a little different, yeah. Because what we're trying to do basically by not watching these groups right now with such young members is we're trying to show that we're not okay with it. You know,
Right.
We're trying to make some kind of an impact. And like I said, we've seen a lot of other online fans say the same thing, that they don't want to support it, they want to make an impact. So by doing that, you really have to take a stand while the idols are still young. Now, getting into a group that's an adult now, who maybe debuted young when they first debuted, it's a little differently. They've already been in the industry for several years. They're not minors anymore. I mean, there are a lot of groups that we react to, that we cover, where their magne was pretty darn young for the most part. And like I said, there's groups that we stand today that have a magne of like 16 or 17. Those, I'm not happy with them debuting at that age, but I can at least support that a little better than like a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old or even a 14-year-old, you know?
right.
So, yeah. See, and that's the other thing too, is like having a youthful concept. Again, that's what I was saying with like Horizon. If you're going to have a young group, then you need to make the concept respectful of their ages, you know?
Right.
It needs to fit their ages. With Horizon, because the ages are so extreme from oldest to youngest, they're trying to do all of it in one group, and it's just not right when you have two babies in the group that are 13, and then you have the oldest members trying to take, their clothes off. Like,
Right.
again, if you want that kind of, split the group in half. Have a young group, have an older group, but trying to do it all in one group, I'm not comfortable with it.
Right.
Because
me neither. Because my biggest concern with like Horizon is that you're going to have adults walking into this group because like when you start watching a group, it's very rare that you know exactly who is who and whose ages are what and all of that. So my concern is you have adults walking into this group, looking at these members, thinking, okay, well, these ones are, half dressed. And so this must be a more mature group when in fact it isn't. And then you're sexualizing children unaware, or even worse, you're sexualizing children and fully aware.
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest thing, is if you're going to have members in there that you're trying to get that kind of sexualized attention from, you're opening up the rest of the group for that same kind of attention, including the children.
Right.
So, yeah. But as far as, like I said, going back to a group that maybe debuted young years ago but are of age now, that we have no issue with. I mean, am I going to sit there and say I'm happy that they debuted so young, depending on what their ages were when they debuted? No. But there's nothing you can do about it now. As far as the ones that are idols now, we can try to do something about that now.
Right. By saying enough is enough, please stop. And so,
and I mean, we're moms, so it's a topic that we're very passionate about, and we've talked about it or touched on it briefly in many videos and streams, as far as like with the Are You Next and the 12-year-old, like I have a child that's only 2 years below that, it's too close to home. Like I try to look at it in the mom lens of things, of like, would I want my 12-year-old put in this kind of environment? And the answer would be no. So if I wouldn't want that for my own children, I'm certainly not going to support other children being put through that, regardless if it's their choice or not. They're too young to make that choice right now.
Right. Yes. Because at that age, you're young. You want to do, you're seeing this highlighted, glamorized, celebrity life and
Mhm.
going, I want this. And not understanding that there's negative repercussions. And unfortunately, children can be easily taken advantage of
Mhm.
and manipulated. And we've seen it happen a lot across the globe,
Yeah,
and it's a scary factor. It's a scary factor.
it
So
is. It is. That's why I just wish these companies would stop trying to push the envelope and going younger and younger. I don't understand why we're looking, because a lot of idols nowadays, if you're 20 or 21, especially if you're trying to debut and you haven't debuted yet, a lot of companies are looking at them and going, "You're too old." I don't understand this issue of debuting adult idols or trainees.
right.
What does it
Right.
matter if they're 20 or 28? Like, I don't understand why this is such an issue, especially when we have so many adult stands. A lot of people like to, at least I know a lot of people that like to like look at K-pop and be like, that's for children. It's not. There's a lot of adult stands from ages of 20 all the way up to 60 and 70 and 80 who would be in support of seeing an adult idol group. And we are starting to get some of those here and there. I look at like Sheed, for example. All of them are 25 and up. And they debuted almost a year ago, or even less than a year ago.
Less than a year ago, I think. Oh, geez, I think November was their debut.
Okay, yeah. And so like,
You have to look it up. That might be wrong, but yeah, somewhere in there.
yeah, and there's a lot of adult stands that were so excited to see an adult idol group debut at those ages. I don't understand why companies aren't looking more at their older trainees and still seeing the potential and wanting to debut them. Why we're going younger and younger and younger. And I get it that they're like, especially like for like boy groups, they're looking at like military age, like wanting to get as much out of them as they can before military. But again, most contracts are 7 years. You debut someone who's 20, and like I said, I would even be completely okay with like 18 and up, as far as like debuting. And you still have plenty of time before they hit that military enlistment age and have to do that. And even then, we're seeing more and more idols coming back from military enlistment who are putting out content still, who aren't, just stopping and leaving the industry. I mean, yeah, there's idols that do that, but we're seeing more and more where idols are coming back together, groups are coming back together after enlistment and having comebacks and putting out new music.
Yeah.
So I wish
Yeah.
it was something that companies would consider more.
Me too. Me too. Because I don't know. It seems sad to have the mentality of your career is over in your late 20s.
Mm.
And that if you haven't made it by then, you're not going to make it. And it's like that's so young.
Mhm.
That's so young still.
It is.
So yeah, and I understand that like there is the military thing, but you know what? It's only like 2 years, which
Yeah.
is not a long time. 2 years flies by. It sucks because we've had several idols that have gone into military since we've gotten into K-pop, and yeah, it hurts. And it feels like forever, but it's only 2 years. And they come back. Anyways, so far all of the ones I've stand that have gone and come back have come back to being an idol.
Yeah.
So, and it like, I don't know. It blows my mind to think that your career is over in your early 20s.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just getting started. So,
Yeah. And like that's the issues though, is like we're seeing, I think, what was it? So like on our Patreon, we're watching Mix 9. And there was one audition at the beginning where there was a girl and I think she was either 24 or 26. And YG looked at her and was like, "Aren't you a little old for this?" And me and Mer were shocked. We're like,
Yeah.
Seriously? And like I said, she was like 24 to 26, somewhere in that range. And we're like, I don't understand that mentality of just looking at someone in their even young to mid 20s and being like, "You're too old for this." no, they're the perfect age for this. And y'all need to start realizing that.
Right. Yeah. And I think for me, like, especially using Sheet as an example,
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember if all of the guys, like, I'm not sure about Jamin. I'd have to look, but I think I know Doa, and I think even Bao have done their military service and it's over.
Mhm.
I could be wrong about, but I definitely know for Doa for sure. And like their military service is done, and so they have the rest of their lives basically, if they want to be an idol. You don't have to worry about them having to leave for a couple of years and coming back. So I don't know personally, if I was a a company looking at trainees, if I had talented trainees that were in their late 20s, and especially if they were done with their military career, I would probably debut them, to be perfectly honest, because why not? I mean,
Yeah.
if as long as you treat them right, you more than likely have someone that's going to perform for you for decades, you know.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I thought they did, but I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, so I mean, that's just, our personal opinion on this. But as far as, like I said, we've been asked about Are You Next and Baby Monster and Horizon. And as of right now, those are not groups or shows that we will be covering because of the age issues. So
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll be kind of just taking that stand for any groups or shows in the future if they have anyone under the age of like 16 as far as a group goes, and if it's a show, if it's 15, after the show runs and by the time they get to debut, more than likely those kids will be 16, and so that kind of fits in there. So we will give a 15 cushion for a show,
yeah.
but 16 and and up is kind of where we cut off. So
Yeah. And like I said, we're still not necessarily happy with 16 and 17-year-olds debuting either, but we can at least support that a little more.
Especially if it's handled tactfully.
Yes, exactly.
So.
Exactly. And I mean, sometimes you have, idols that are minors who try to push the envelope themselves. And that's when we look at the company and even the older members in the groups to be like, you need to get the baby in line, even if they got to be grounded or whatever the case may be. And we've seen that in several cases with different groups where the older members will be like, nope, you're not doing that. You're too young.
Right. Yeah.
Those are the groups that I'm like, very proud of you guys. Very proud.
Thank you for keeping the children in line.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yep. So did we want to move on to our second topic of the day?
Our second topic, our K-drama topic, which, according to allkpop.com, the K-drama world hasn't avoided controversy. On June 29th, Netflix announced the surprising second cast lineup for the highly anticipated original series Squid Games 2, which I have not even seen one.
I know, we still need to show you one. I've watched one twice already. So yeah, we need to show Mer season 1 of Squid Game because it's damn good. It really is.
Yeah, but a lot of netizens are upset because on the list, TOP is included on the list of cast members.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of people are upset. He's been quiet in the entertainment industry since like 2017, except for his participation in the MV Still Life with Big Bang.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, he has left YG Entertainment and the group Big Bang, and apparently has cut ties with group members, which is just speculation right now, but it seems to be he's seemingly blocked G-Dragon, and G-Dragon has deleted any post about TOP, and so we don't know what's going on there, but a lot of people are upset because of TOP's controversy surrounding his drug use, which he had, had like, I think, received 2 years probation sentence. And so, yeah, a lot of people aren't wanting to support it, or at least Korean netizens aren't. And there's been a lot of comments about it, like, oh, okay, goodbye, Netflix, apparently. Wow, congratulations, TOP, for all those years you spent making backhanded connections with the top entertainment industries finally paid off. And let's see, what else? Director Hwang casting him is literally you shooting and killing every talented, hardworking, rising actor going to auditions every week for a tiny role. And my favorite is watching Netflix sprinkle marijuana on the biggest hit in real time, which had me giggling because even though it is a K-drama, and I do understand that, and I do understand K netizens being upset about this because marijuana use is a big deal to them. It is illegal over there, and they find it, from what I've seen, very offensive when any K-drama actors or K-pop idols or anything like that uses marijuana. I understand that.
Yeah.
But it had me giggling because Netflix is an American-based television series, and where like drug use controversies is basically non-existent. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
And especially with Squid Games, English-speaking countries have brought in over $900 million to the show. So, and I think it's, I don't remember the percentage, but it was near 50%, I think, of the revenue brought in, I think. And then the next after that was Latin country revenue. And I don't see.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't see the series going, oh, okay, because the Korean revenue that was brought in was such a tiny percentage that I'm not sure it's going to hurt their pocketbook enough to cancel the show or remove him from the cast lineup.
Yeah, I mean,
so.
like Mer said, we understand where they're coming from, but because Netflix is an American-based company, telling them that casting someone who was caught with weed is basically going to ruin their show, it's just not the case. It's not going to worry them, because especially when you think about it, a lot of filming companies are based in like California, where for the most part weed's kind of been either decriminalized or made legal, or at least different forms of it. So it's just, I don't see Netflix really caring all that much about his past with marijuana. And I don't see that bringing down the show any either. Right.
Yeah. So, and I do understand taking a stand, like we just talked about. We are taking a stand the best way we know how. We're doing what we can do. If it bothers you, by all means, take the stand. You know, you have to stand up for what you find is right. I don't know. I just found it humorous to me because I was like, yeah, California don't care.
Yeah.
So
Netflix is not going to worry about this. You know, it'd be a lot different if this was like a Korean-based company where they'd probably take this much more seriously and be like, okay, maybe we shouldn't cast him. But in the US, I mean, we don't really bat an eye too much at that stuff, especially when it's like weed, which is considered to a lot of people as like one of the lowest, smallest, least concerning drugs out there, And it's almost common knowledge, especially in the entertainment industry, in Western culture and in the United States, that unfortunately most celebrities tend to dip their fingers in a lot more than weed, and is
If they're just hitting the lettuce and that's it, that is a win.
Right? Like if that's all our celebrities are doing in the US, I would count that as a win because most of them are doing way worse than that. So
right. Yeah. And and like we I don't know what his character is, like Twaya Aurora was saying. It could be a minor part for all
right,
it could be one episode that he shows up in. I'm assuming he's not going to be part of the main cast. Again, I haven't seen the show. I'm not exactly sure how it works.
Yeah.
But I'm going to assume that he isn't going to be part of the main cast since he's being brought in the second season.
Yeah.
I don't know.
See, and I'm gonna try not to give too much away because, like we said, Mer has not seen this yet. We need to get her. We need to somehow before season 2 comes out, get Mer caught up on the first season. But basically, from the looks of season 1, we saw our main character, our leading character, basically looking like he was gonna go back and maybe go through what he experienced in season 1 all over again. So with that in mind, we already have our leading character, that's not going to change, and he's already been confirmed to come back to play the same role, the same character that he played before. And then, I mean, this is a show where a good portion of the cast doesn't really survive. Okay? So, like Mer said, he could literally be in one episode and get killed off right away. And it was one of those very brief cameos, because we see that at least a lot in like, Western-based movies and shows where they'll try to get a lot of hype by casting a big name and only use it and only, cast them for their name and then literally kill off their character in the first episode.
Yeah.
So
right, but then you're invested in the show and you keep
exactly
watching. So I don't know. It seems to be kind of early to get your pickies in a twist, but what do I know? Again, if you feel like you got to take a stand, take a stand. But the controversy. I was like, man. Wow, of all the controversies, it's just so foreign to me, which I get.
Because we're looking at it through a Western lens and point of view.
Right. Looking at it, it's just like, wow. I mean, it's just like, I don't know. It's like, who isn't
at least over here
using that over here, right?
Obviously, we're not saying everyone does it, but like in like the celebrity world.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. I'm not hurt over it, so I don't mind watching it. But
I'm excited for the show. I really am.
Yeah. But it's definitely a controversy that popped up, and I've just felt the need to discuss it. Yeah.
And I agree. With chat there about regardless of what's going on with TOP, hopefully he's doing what he needs to do to keep his mental health up. Right. So
yeah, I think that's the most important is that mental health. Mental health can be underrated, and that's as long as he's taking care of himself, that's what matters. So
yeah, exactly. But yeah, do we have any other things we got going on?
Well, for our channel, things are about to get wild.
Crazy. Yeah.
Just so not so much this month because we're well over halfway in this month. We always plan to do this on the first Friday of the month, and obviously that didn't happen. So and I'm not exactly sure when we're going to get to our next podcast next month because we have a lot going on. We have we're going to be having kind of a semi-break coming up. We're going to try to pre-record and do the best we can beforehand. But we've got some stuff coming up that we're gonna need a break from, so the uploads probably won't happen as often. There probably won't be as much content.
And we're looking at like, and when we say break, we're looking at like a week to 2 week time period. Because what it is I'm basically getting major dental surgery done, and I don't know. I've been told that the healing process is at the lowest about a week, and at the highest about 2 weeks. So with that, we're gonna mostly be playing it by ear. If I'm up for it after the first week, then we'll be back to things as quickly as we can. But at the most, we're looking at a 2 week break sometime next month.
Right.
Yeah. And like Mar said, we're going to try and pre-record as much as we can, but it's going to be really hard for us to pre-record a whole 2 weeks worth of content beforehand. So we'll try, excuse me, we'll try and do what we can to at least have a couple uploads during that time. And even I think Mur's been making like some FMVs and some other little things here and there that can also help.
Right. Yeah. And I'll be doing those, and so yeah, we'll be putting stuff out, but it just might not be as much because not only do we have the content here to keep up with, but we also have Patreon content that we're basically have uploads every day over there too. So we will definitely be keeping you guys more updated. But on top of that, even though we are taking the break, we're also going to be doing some more lives over on the other platform that I'm not going to mention so we don't get in trouble, because we are going to be doing, my birthday is coming up. So in August. So mid-August, we'll be doing a birthday live for me. And so that should be interesting. I don't know, like for free, we did a morning and an evening live. I don't know if we'll do the same thing. I think
it basically comes down to how much content we have and how much we can cover in the first live.
Right. So we'll see how that goes.
So if any of you have any suggestions or anything to help me get my birthday revenge on Mur, hit me up on Discord, okay? Because she nearly killed me for my birthday, so gotta get her back, you know.
Right. So with all of those things going on next month, all that craziness, I'm not sure we will have an episode 4 podcast. We might be playing it by ear.
Yeah. I think a lot of next month is going to be playing it by ear and seeing what happens.
Right. Yeah.
But we will be keeping everyone updated on all platforms.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Right.
I'm trying to like schedule this surgery because I'm basically have to wait right now to hear from them. And it should be, I've been told I would be waiting like 2 weeks to a month. And it's already been almost 2 weeks. So I should be hearing something soon. And as soon as I do, like I said, we'll keep everyone updated. But I'm really, really hoping to try and schedule this to where I can be back in time for Mur's birthday week. Because I have a good week of YouTube videos planned out for her. So, and yes, I will post a list of her biases.
It's a long list.
Yeah. I asked Mur to write it out for me because I've been like not feeling great this week. So it's been hard to concentrate. So I was like, can you just like give me and then at the end of it, she put, wow, I'm such a hoe.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like my list was longer than yours, but we'll see. And I'll be putting out a Google form too for you guys to put in those suggestions and recommendations for the live stream.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it is. That's for sure. But yeah, I think her birthday week's gonna be really fun. I think the stream's gonna be really fun. I'm hoping to create some new videos like she did for me. I probably won't get to make as many. But you know, figure between me and the rest of you guys, we should be able to put something together really, really good for her birthday.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of Google Docs, I've been debating, especially since we've been doing the podcast. I never know what to like. We hit topics that draw interest to us and kind of get us all fired up and stuff. But I've thought about maybe making a Google Doc where people can submit topics that we can cover, because obviously we want to talk about stuff that you guys are also interested in. So I might get on that sometime soon.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Because then
that
if we
way
have it ahead of
can-
time, we could do research and look into things and
Exactly.
get all our stuff together ahead of time.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
So but I think that's it. I think
Yep.
we actually covered 2 topics this time.
Yeah.
Go us.
See, that was the problem. That's why we were so late this month, is because for the first 2 episodes, technically there was only supposed to be 1 episode last month. But we had like 4 topics planned out, and we forgot that we talk a lot. So we only got through like 2 topics in the first episode and wound up having to do a second one later in the month. So it was almost like there was no point in doing another one at the beginning of this month, since we did one so late last month. So, but yeah, we're going to just try and keep our podcast to like 2 topics, 3 maybe at the max, like in case we run out of things to say. But for the most part, we all know how it is. We talk a lot.
I was going to cover something else today, and I was like, yeah, there's no way we're going to get through that. I was going to talk about like New Jean controversy, but since that's kind of like old news now, and we've already kind of given our opinions on that in Discord, I was like, yeah, we ain't getting through that today. So, yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, we'll see how things go for the next podcast, but we also, we got some things coming up too that might be fun to discuss. Water bomb at the end of the month. Water bomb is...
That should be interesting.
That should be very fun. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we'll see how, like Mar said, we'll play things by ear next month and see how things go.
Right. Keep you all updated.
Yep. But we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. Hopefully you all enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us. As usual, we'll have our regular uploads today, both on YouTube and Patreon. And we got that other thing going on tonight on the other platform that we can't mention. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it already like 3 times this stream, but we'll see how it goes. I was mentioning it in reference to like past things, not future things, so I think we're okay.
Right.
But if y'all know, you know. If you don't know, jump on over to our Discord, or just, look in our community tab. There'll be updates there.
Right.
Yep. And we'll catch y'all another time.